There are places, children, that no man should ever tread. I went there, and it left a piece of itself inside me. Victor's voice, gravelly and strained, echoed in the dimly lit room. His grandchildren huddled closer together, their faces illuminated only by the flickering firelight. Shadows danced across the walls, twisting and shifting like living entities. The old man leaned forward, his hollow eyes reflecting something dark, something unspoken. You think monsters are just stories, he began. That the supernatural is just a game? I thought so too. But I was wrong, terribly, fatally wrong. And I paid the price. Victor had always been a man of insatiable curiosity, especially when it came to the supernatural. He scoured libraries, old bookstores, and online forums, chasing whispers of ancient rituals and forbidden knowledge. One day, in a forgotten bookstore tucked deep within an alley, he found it, a weathered, leather-bound book with no title, only a single, haunting symbol on its cover, a serpent devouring its own tail. I should have walked away, he muttered. But something about that book. It felt alive, as though it wanted me to find it. The book contained arcane symbols, chants, and rituals in a language that seemed to pulse with malevolent energy. As Victor read, he felt a growing unease, as if the very act of deciphering the text was awakening something ancient and hungry. I was playing with fire, he said, his voice a low growl. And I didn't even realize it. One moonless night, driven by reckless curiosity, Victor decided to perform one of the rituals from the book. He set up a crude altar in his basement, candles, a circle of salt, and a crude sigil drawn with chalk. He recited the incantation, his voice trembling with a mix of fear and excitement. As I spoke those words, he whispered, the air grew cold, so cold my breath turned to mist. Then, the shadows in the room began to move. The flames of the candles flickered violently, casting grotesque shapes on the walls. Suddenly, a low, guttural growl emanated from the darkness. Victor froze as an otherworldly figure began to materialize before him. It was tall, unnaturally thin, with elongated limbs and a face devoid of features except for two hollow black eyes that seemed to stare straight into his soul. It spoke without a mouth, Victor said, shivering at the memory. It whispered my name over and over, as if it had always known me. Its voice wasn't just in the room, it was in my mind. Before Victor could react, the entity lunged, pressing an ice-cold hand to his chest. The pain was unbearable, as though his very essence was being torn apart. When it vanished, it left a searing mark on his palm, a symbol from the book. That mark, he said, showing his grandchildren the faded scar, was a door. A door I could never close. That night, Victor was pulled from his bed by an unseen force. He felt his spirit wrenched from his body, hurtling through a vortex of screaming faces and clawing hands. The tunnel, he said, his voice trembling, was endless. Faces twisted in agony reached for me, their mouths moving as if they were begging for help. But no sound came. Only the screams. Victor landed in a desolate wasteland. The ground was blackened and cracked, oozing a thick, foul-smelling liquid. The sky was a sickly red, with black clouds swirling ominously. In the distance, massive spires made of human bones stretched toward the heavens, their surfaces writhing with living, skittering insects. I wasn't alone, Victor said. Far from it. The damned were everywhere. Victor described the countless tortured souls he saw, their faces frozen in perpetual agony. Some were chained to fiery pits, their bodies endlessly consumed and regenerated by the flames. Others were suspended in mid-air, their skin peeled away by invisible forces, their screams echoing across the desolate plains. I saw a river, he said, his voice breaking. A river made of blood and ash, where figures writhed beneath the surface, their mouths gasping for air that would never come. And the creatures, oh, the creatures, towering beasts roamed the land, their bodies twisted and unnatural. One had too many limbs, each ending in a clawed hand that dripped with ichor. Another had a face made entirely of screaming mouths, each one crying out in a different language, and they were hunting me, Victor whispered. As Victor fled through the nightmarish landscape, he came upon a colossal gate forged from iron and bone. Standing before it was the gatekeeper, a towering figure cloaked in shadow. Its eyes glowing like embers, it spoke in a voice that shook the very ground. Victor said, It told me I didn't belong there, but now that I had entered, I could never leave unless I gave it a piece of my soul. Victor refused. In response, the gatekeeper unleashed its horde, shadowy creatures with glowing red eyes and razor-sharp teeth that pursued him relentlessly. Desperate and exhausted, Victor remembered the mark on his palm. The symbol began to glow, burning with an intense heat. In his final moments of despair, he pressed the mark against the ground, and a blinding light erupted, pulling him back through the vortex. I woke up in my bed, he said, his voice hollow. But I wasn't the same. That place had marked me, left a stain on my soul. Victor leaned back, his eyes glinting with a mix of fear and sorrow. That book, he said, nodding toward a locked chest in the corner, is still here. It's waiting for the next fool who thinks they can control what they don't understand. The fire sputtered, and for a moment, the shadows seemed to lengthen, creeping closer to the children. They stared at their grandfather, too terrified to speak, as the wind howled outside like a mournful wail. And remember, Victor said, his voice barely audible, the supernatural isn't something you find. It finds you.
Please subscribe, like, comment and share this video. It means a lot to us. Thank you.